Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch Break with the Rabbi. Today is the Thursday, 11/19. I'm just going to put this on Facebook. Just one second. Okay. Today, as we get ready for Shabbos, as we mentioned last time, we continue to discover on Thursdays, we talk about the Torah reading of the week. And we look into today's Torah reading. It's full of wonderful episodes and different things that happened. But we're going to go to today's Torah reading. For today is Thursday. And we're going to talk about one of the most amazing facts that are mentioned in this week's Torah reading, a concept that we read about our forefather Jacob, who was considered one of the greatest of all our patriarchs. And still in all, we find something amazing that happened that we're going to talk about, the concept of cheating. How is it that Jacob was able to cheat from his father the blessings that were intended to go to Esau, and he instead takes them, as we're going to discuss today? Let me just see if we can get some more. Just put it on Facebook a second. Hold on. Sorry for the... Okay, so there's a story told about a rabbi who tells everybody in his congregation, next week I'm going to talk about the problems of cheating, and therefore I want you all to prepare chapter 28 in the book of Leviticus, that we can discuss it and you can know the repercussions and the terrible activity of cheating. And of course, everybody goes home, and the next day, the next week, everybody's back in the synagogue, and the rabbi says, whoever prepared chapter 128 of Leviticus, please raise your hand. And of course, as a diligent congregation, they all raise their hand in unison that they prepare chapter 28. The rabbi smiles and said, well, there's only one slight problem. There are only 27 chapters in the book of Leviticus. Now that we've understood what cheating means, let's talk about the repercussions of cheating. Out of all the Torah readings, out of all the commandments that are mentioned in the Torah, there's only one commandment that the Torah says something you should distance yourself from, which is lying. The Torah uses the terminology midvar sheker, from the words of lies, tircha, you should distance yourself. That even when you have the ability to lie, or even when your lies may produce something which is positive, one should not lie. Lying is something, an attitude which Maimonides talks about. One should go to the opposite extreme, because unfortunately, when a person begins to lie, the lying becomes part of the individual and there's no escaping from it. The Talmud tells us an interesting story that there was once this great rabbi that his wife would give him a really hard time. Anytime he asked for lentil soup, he would get chicken soup. If he asked for chicken soup, he got lentil soup. So one time, the young rabbi asks his son to go ask his mother to get some chicken soup. The son knew exactly what the method of the mother does, that when he asks for chicken soup, he gives lentil soup. When he asks for lentil soup, he gives chicken soup. So the son says that the father asked for lentil soup, which of course the mom then changed to chicken soup. The rabbi gets the exact thing that he asked for, knew that something was wrong here because his wife always changed the dish. So he asked his son, what'd you do? He said, I knew that she was going to change the dish, so I just changed in your request. And like this, she would do the opposite. He was reprimanded by his father because he told him, I know you were lying to make things happier for me, to get me the soup that I requested, but don't accustom yourself to lying. Take this even a step further. Jacob is called in the beginning of this week's Torah reading a man of sincerity. Bilam the evil looks at our patriarchs and says, they are people who are upright and righteous. They never lie. Why then all of a sudden do we find in this week's Torah reading that Jacob comes along and puts himself and situates himself as if he's Esau, puts on special fur to make believe he's Esau, and then all of a sudden he lies and he says, I am Esau, your elder son. all in order to get blessings which were anyways directed towards him, because he was going to be the heir of Isaac. And what were the blessings for? Physical things, materialistic things. Wasn't Jacob a spiritual person? And why did he have to lie to get it? To make things even worse, his mother, Rebecca's in cahoots with him. She's the one that comes up with the plan. Wasn't his mother there to educate him not to lie, not to steal? Why was he taking the blessings? Well, there are those that explain, well, Isaac was blind. He didn't realize that Esau was a terrible person, and therefore he believed that, and she believed that Jacob should get the blessings, not Esau. Well, Rebecca was married at this point to Isaac for over 84 years. The boys, Jacob and Esau, were now 64 years old. They're pretty much set in their lives. There could have been some conversation and some kind of type of communication which Rebecca could have told Isaac, listen here, Esau's not a good guy. The blessings should go to Jacob. But instead she connives and comes up with some type of way to be able to get Jacob to get the blessings. Why? Why not tell your husband he should get the blessings? Which takes us even a step further. Jacob himself, next week's Torah reading, comes across his uncle Laban and accuses him of lying when he gives Leah instead of Rachel. Hey, Jacob, he just did the same thing you were doing. What's wrong with his lies that you're allowed to lie? Which one is it? So is lying a good thing or not a good thing? Should he be lying or should he not be lying? Why did he go take the blessings in such a conniving way? So, in life, there are many different times where sometimes we need to lie. What does that mean? They say a story about there were two patients in a hospital. There was one patient who had the window bed and one patient had the bed by the door. The patient by the window had this ability that he was able to pick himself up every so often and look outside the window. The fellow by the door never saw the window, never saw what was going on outside. And every time his roommate would look out the window, he'd ask him, what do you see? And he would draw from this beautiful landscape, waters and waterfalls and kids flying and playing outside in the park, women pushing strollers, an unbelievable landscape of activity and momentum that was going on outside. And you said, wow, one day I'm going to get the window bed and I want to see what's going on out there. And I'll feel strong enough to lift myself up and see what's going on. Unfortunately, the day came that his roommate, well, the one by the window, passed away or was discharged from the hospital. And now it was his turn to be by the window. And he finally gets that energy, builds himself up to be able to see what's going outside. He looks outside and all he sees is a big cement building right in front of him. He says, where's that picture? Where's that landscape? His roommate well knew that this picture that he was drawing from would give his roommate the energy to be able to continue the days in the hospital, and created this landscape for the benefit of his patient. Many times we ask a prognosis, we ask what's going on. You ask a person their age, they won't tell you. You ask your host how the food is, or the host asks you how the food is. Of course you're going to say it tastes good, and I'm sure you will. Because there's polite, even though it's not saying the entire truth. Why? As the Talmud tells us, there are three things a person's allowed to lie on because it's going to bring peace into the home. If something is going to achieve peace and tranquility, we know we can say half-truths. There's no mitzvah to stick somebody in the face and to insult a person, even if it's true. And we have to be careful with that. So we see there are places and on times that we can, so to speak, say half-truths for the benefit of peace and tranquility, of getting along with people around you. But what was it in this case that Jacob was allowed to lie? Or why did Jacob take the method, and Jacob and Rebekah take the method of cheating their way through to get the blessings? And for this, we need to go a little bit deeper. And I must tell you, this is a little teaser to next week's class in the JLI course, where we're going to analyze this story a lot deeper. So you want to tune in next week, Tuesday night, on our JLI class of Jacob and Esau. But here's a little taste. Jacob was from Adam, was a reincarnation of Adam, the first man. Rebekah was a reincarnation of Eve. And if you recall, how did Eve stumble and eat from the tree of knowledge was because it was portrayed in a bouquet of roses. The snake trickily came along to Adam and Eve and said, listen here, I've got a fruit for you that if you do this, you will now be like God. He decorated something to go against God's plan in a way of trickery, teaching them to be able to eat from the tree of knowledge, which ultimately led to their great sin. We now needed to rectify that. And Adam and Eve's reincarnation, who were Jacob and Rebekah, Kabbalah explains, through trickery got the blessings of Esau, meaning Esau is symbolic of the evil inclination. Esau was a person who lived his life in trickery, as the Torah tells us in this week's Torah reading, lied his entire life to his father of what kind of person he was. And the only way to outsmart a trickster is with his own trick book. So what they did was, went in the book that Esau used, and he took one of his own tricks out of his own book and used it against him. This is exactly what Esau was all about. Esau was the evil inclination. Esau was the enemy of the time, so to speak. And in order for Jacob to bring about the blessings in its truest form and to rectify what the initial mistake of trickery brought about, he needed to get these blessings in a way of trickery. But that's only one step. He goes a step further. In fact, Jacob was teaching us a lesson for every time and every age. We have the evil inclination who is there in every single time, tries to deceive us by telling us what we should and shouldn't do, telling us that things which are maybe not for our benefit become for our benefit. For example, Hasidim used to say the evil inclination encloses itself in a saintly person, thinking and teaching you that this is a good thing to do. Let me share with you a story of Rabbi Nachman of Chernobyl, a great saintly holy man. Every penny he had, he gave away to charity. It came a time that one of his own children needed to get married, and he needed some money to marry off his child. But because every penny he got, he would give away to poor people, he had no money. So his assistant went over to one of the wealthy people in town and said, when you go the next time to the rabbi and you ask him for advice and you usually bring a donation, let me tell you that he needs money to marry off his daughter. Please give him a donation to marry off his daughter. And lo and behold, the wealthy fellow comes, leaves a nice donation for the rabbi. Immediately after the wealthy person comes in, the assistant comes in to get the money to be able to use to marry off his daughter. But before that, there was another person that went in to have an audience with the rabbi, a poor person who needed money as well. And the rabbi took all the money that he just received from this wealthy man and gave it to the poor person. Dismayed and amused, the assistant walks into the rabbi and says, Rabbi, why? He says, why? What do you mean, why? A poor person needed the money. But you're probably wondering why something else. Why I didn't hold the money and give it to 5 different people, and I gave all the money to one person. She says, you know what? I'll tell you. I also had that question. I was about to give all the money to this person, but then all of a sudden a thought came into my mind and said, why should I give all the charity to this one person if I can take this amount of money and split it between 5 people? And I said, that's a fabulous idea. But then I thought again. And I said, when did this thought come to me? When I was about to give the charity, all of a sudden, I got a thought I should split it up between 5 people. I said, that was from the evil inclination, who said, don't give it all today, don't give it all tomorrow, and then delay, ultimately not to give it. This is the tactic of the evil inclination. The evil inclination comes in a righteous way and says, give charity, but you're also a person, you have to live. Give charity, but give a little bit here, a little bit there. Why so much? Give it to other people. Any delay in doing a mitzvah is the evil inclination trying to stop you from doing the mitzvah. The same idea applies in our own life. Sometimes we have to outsmart the evil inclination who tries to connive us and deceive us. And the way it tries to connive us and deceive us is by telling us, you go to work. Great. That's what you're supposed to do. You got to make a living. You got to bring home money for your family. You got to live. But it's your money. You worked for it. Enjoy it. But what about giving charity? You'll give it another time. Next week, When you make enough money and you're wealthy, then you'll give charity. That's the evil inclination trying to stop you from doing the right thing. But even more so, how do we outsmart the evil inclination? Is that when we go to work and we do our mundane day-to-day activities, we dedicate them to God. I'm going to work because I want to serve God, because that's what God tells me to do. Automatically, I'm able to rule out the evil inclination, and there cheating is allowed. When I take my tricks, play them against the evil inclination, show the evil inclination, yes, I'm following you, I'm doing what you say, but then curve off and do it because of a spiritual reason. Use the tricks against the evil inclination, cheat the evil inclination against its own game. Then you win the game. You come out on top with the blessings that Isaac gives you. The blessing that Isaac gives you, I wish all of you, Ve'yitel lecha Hashem Elokim, that God should bless you with an abundance of health and wealth and prosperity. Those were the blessings that Isaac gave Jacob and continues to give every single one of us. So God bless you. Have a great day and a wonderful day. And God willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Not at 1 p.m., a little bit later, closer to Shabbos. Wishing you the very best for a good Shabbos, a wonderful Thursday, and a wonderful day. God bless.